Tuen Mun District councillors staunchly opposed to landfill expansion plan. Pilot in Asiana plane crash and training at the time. And China's ex-railways minister gets a suspended death sentence for corruption.
Hello and a very good evening. The Legislative Council's Finance Committee will take up at its meeting on Friday the government's funding request for landfill expansion plans in Tuen Mun and Ta Kwu Ling. But Tuen Mun District councillors are staunchly opposed to the expansion plan in their area. As Diane To reports, the Finance Committee is not expected to reach a vote this week.
Legislators of the Business and Professional Alliance hold 6 decisive votes on whether funding will be approved for the landfill expansion plans on Friday. Representing the engineering sector in LegCo, Alliance member Lo Wai Kwok said his group will back the Tuen Mun residents on their opposition.
The government must respond to the request from the residents there, particularly because of the nuisance of the landfills caused to the residents. It's something that the government must take solid action to mitigate.
This comes as fellow Alliance lawmaker Lau Wong Fat, who's also chairman of the Tuen Mun District Council and a village chief in the area, came out in staunch opposition to the expansion plans last week. After a meeting with fellow district councillors this morning, Lau said they're united in demanding the government shelve its proposal on the Tuen Mun site. He said the government didn't have any real discussion with residents and district councillors before the plans were put forward. The $35 million application for the Tuen Mun site is in fact money for a feasibility study and not the actual expansion yet. But District Councillor Chan Shu Ying said it's a matter of principle that the government consults them first. She also questioned why such a large-scale expansion plan is necessary if the government has already set out targets on waste reduction. With many other lawmakers also opposing the landfill plans and suggestions of filibusters being thrown in, Chairman of the Finance Committee, Tommy Jug, said he expects they won't reach the voting stage at the Friday meeting. Diane To, TVB News.
A group of school students had the chance to pose some serious questions about the Occupy Central movement today. The girls at Heap Yun School grilled people on both sides of the movement about the ideas, politics and legal issues behind the controversial campaign. Rachel Leung reports.
The school stated at the beginning that it does not take any position on the Occupy Central movement. Instead, it was up to the students of Heap Yun School to make up their own minds.
I think the both of the meeting of today express very different points of view towards the issues of Occupy Central. And I think it is a good learning experience for us to experience the different stands from different parties and different people.
The pro-establishment Voice of Loving Hong Kong, meanwhile, handed out leaflets outside the school to protest why such a forum should be held at all. It says it received complaints from parents who were worried their children would be encouraged to break the law by occupying Central. Still, some students asked questions mature beyond their years. One girl asked Benny Tai, a legal professor who helped start the movement, whether he felt the campaign disrespected the law. His answer, it's not like robbing a bank for one's personal gain, but a civil movement seeking justice. Then it was National People's Congress Standing Committee member Rita Fan's turn to face the students. She didn't agree with the Occupy Central movement, saying it would only hurt Hong Kong. Fan added it would not succeed in bringing universal suffrage, saying Beijing would stand firm in its stance. This parent thought the experience was good for his daughter.
I feel this is a very good chance for my daughter to have critical thinking opportunity, because she can have a chance to listen to different points of views.
The school did remind the students at the start of the forum that the activities of Occupy Central can be against the law. Meanwhile, the Voice of Loving Hong Kong is calling for government monitoring on how the Occupy Central movement may influence local schools. The Liberal Party also joined in the chorus of opposition to the Occupy Central movement.
We don't agree that occupying Central is the way to do it. We feel that Central, traditionally, in the colonial days and after the handover, is really the heart of Hong Kong's commercial activity. It will affect all our retail, all our restaurants, all our transport such as taxis and so forth, and all the people working in the financial district.
The Liberal Party is also skeptical of claims made by Occupy Central organizers that their protests will be peaceful. Rachel Lang, TVB News.
Critical clues gathered in the aftermath of that Asiana jetliner crash in San Francisco already points to pilot error. Not only was the pilot in training, it was his first time to land a Boeing 777. We'll also hear from survivors about the tragedy that killed 2 Chinese teenagers and injured more than 180 others on board. The first readings from the still intact cockpit voice recorder reveals Asiana Airlines Flight 214 landed too slow and too low. A mere 7 seconds before landing, one pilot makes a call to increase speed. 3 seconds later, an alarm sounds off, warning the plane is flying too slow and about to stall. Right before impact, the crew tried to abort the landing, but with 1.5 seconds before touching down, it was too late. Just short of the runway, the plane struck a seawall, slamming the aircraft down hard, causing it to break apart and burst into flames. In addition to flying too slow at 137 knots, transportation safety officials say the wreckage points to clues of pilot error.
The 137 knots came from the crew conversation about their approach speed.
We saw different types of damage. We saw fire damage and burn damage in the front of the aircraft, but we saw significant structural deformation in the back.
In a twist that could be calling San Francisco International Airport into question, the Instrument Landing System, or ILS, for the runway where the Asiana plane crashed had been turned off since June. The system uses radio signals to create a 3-dimensional glide slope for planes to follow so they are not too high, too low, or too far to the right or left. In addition to having only 43 hours experience flying the long-range jet, this was the pilot, Lee Kang-kook's first attempt at landing a Boeing 777. Survivors say it was obvious the plane was in trouble.
The nose of the plane, as you know, goes up a little bit, and then throttles start hitting hard, and then we felt like we were going up again.
If I did not have that, I would have hit that ceiling. That's how hard the impact was.
Investigators believe the moment the tail of the aircraft hit the seawall, 2 teenage Chinese girls on their way to summer camp in America were thrown from the plane and killed. But another report that has yet to be verified claims one girl died from being run over by an emergency vehicle. Among the 180 passengers injured, 6 remain in critical condition, including 1 child. In Zhejiang province in China, the parents of the 2 students who died are now making their way to San Francisco, along with parents of other students on the ill-fated flight. Fighting back the tears, this man is worried for his son, who is in the intensive care unit of a hospital. This woman says her daughter is injured, but it's her heart that hurts most, as she was seated right next to the 2 girls who died in the crash. In Canada, the death toll from explosions triggered by the derailment of a runaway train carrying crude oil has gone up to 5. 40 other people are still missing. The train did not have an engineer on board when it derailed in a small town in Quebec province last Saturday. It rolled downhill from an overnight parking spot, gathered speed, and then went off the track on a curved road at 1 a.m. In the train's 72 cars, each carried 113,000 liters of oil. 4 of those caught fire and exploded. Upon visiting the site, Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper pledged his support for rebuilding the area, saying it resembled a war zone. Canada's Transportation Safety Board said the train's brakes would be the focus of their investigation.
In Beijing, former Railways Minister Liu Zhijun has been given a suspended death sentence for bribery and abuse of power. Although Liu confessed to his crime and most of the losses for the state have been recovered, the judge said a death sentence was warranted given the circumstances and consequences of Liu's offences. Jenny Lam reports.
Former Railways Minister Liu Zhijun was convicted of bribery and abuse of power at Beijing's No. 2 Intermediate People's Court this morning. He was sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve, stripped of his political rights for life, and all of his personal property is to be confiscated. The prosecution told the court that Liu had accepted 64.5 million yuan between 1986 and 2011 in return for helping 11 people with promotions and contracts for cargo transportation. He also helped some of them acquire shares in a bullet train wheelset company. The losses in public assets as a result of Liu's crime, the court said, was colossal. Liu did not contest the accusations during the hearing and does not intend to appeal. China's high-speed rail network was undergoing a massive expansion in 2003 when Liu headed the Railways Ministry. He was disciplined in 2008 in connection with the derailment of a train going from Beijing to Qingdao. Liu was removed from his position in 2011 on suspicion of serious disciplinary violations. Reports on the mainland said he had accepted advantages from businesswoman Ding Yuxin. He was also held responsible for the Wenzhou rail disaster in which 40 people were killed and about 200 were injured. Liu was expelled from the Communist Party of China last year. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
Overseas again, at least 34 people have been killed in Cairo after Egyptian troops apparently opened fire on a Muslim Brotherhood demonstration. The Brotherhood says its members were fired on while they were holding a sit-in near the army's barracks. But military officials claim a terrorist group tried to storm the compound. Egypt's messy transition to a new government took another violent turn today, with scores of casualties being reported in Cairo early this morning. The incident happened as members and supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood gathered near the military complex where deposed President Mohamed Morsi is believed to be held. The military claimed a terrorist group tried to storm the building, which houses the country's elite presidential guard, and that soldiers had acted in self-defense. Many of those either killed or wounded were civilians, but the military reported casualties on its side. But one of Egypt's smaller Islamic parties, the Noor Party, announced it would withdraw from negotiations to form a new interim government in protest at today's violence. It comes on the back of more protests yesterday, which saw hundreds of thousands of supporters and opponents of Morsi take to the streets across the country. The huge rallies have mostly been peaceful, but a military-backed plan to resolve the political crisis remains bogged down over who should be made interim prime minister. The military overthrew Egypt's first democratically elected president last Wednesday after a massive people power protest to oust Morsi. The Brotherhood, which Morsi is a member of, has denounced the move as an illegal coup and has vowed peaceful resistance until he is reinstated. Cuban President Raul Castro says he supports offers of asylum given by 3 Latin American countries to U.S. whistleblowing fugitive Edward Snowden. Though speaking behind closed doors at the Cuban National Assembly, Castro stopped short of declaring that Havana would offer sanctuary to the man who helped expose the extent of recent U.S. spying activity. He did not say if Snowden had been in touch with Cuban authorities. Cuba has in the past given refuge to various U.S. fugitives, most notably members of the Black Panthers group several decades ago.
And still ahead in our newscast, a number of bus routes in Southern District to be canceled. A solar-powered plane completes its journey across America, and Andy Murray ends a 77-year British jinx at Wimbledon.
And we're back tonight with more international news. Japanese nuclear operators have applied to restart reactors under new rules drawn up after the Fukushima Daiichi power plant disaster 2 years ago. But given Japanese people's sceptical stance against nuclear power since the disaster of March 2011, it may be a while before operators can restart generators. Japan's Nuclear Regulation Authority says it would take at least 6 months to review the country's nuclear power units. All but 2 of Japan's 50 reactors have been closed since the meltdown at Fukushima, which forced hundreds of thousands from their homes. Well, concern over China's economic slowdown weighed on Asian stocks today, with the local market ending the day in the red. The Hang Seng Index closed down 272 points, or 1.3%, to finish at 20,582. Mainland shares in the Shenzhen and Shanghai bourses also took a beating. Analysts have warned that the outlook remains muted in the near future, and the slowdown in China and other emerging markets has prompted the IMF to warn it could lower its forecast for global growth.
The MTR's West and South Island lines will come into service over the next couple of years. The government has approved plans to scale back bus services to the districts. About 20 bus routes will be canceled. But the move may affect areas which the new railway lines do not reach. Vicky Kung reports.
City bus route number 590A from Apleichou to Admiralty is a key means of transport for people living in South Horizon. But the service may be scrapped once the MTR's South Island line comes into service in a couple of years. The Transport Department says that's to avoid a repeat in transport services on the buses and trains. Bus route number 671 from Apleichou to Diamond Hill in Kowloon will also be cancelled. Wafu Estates, home to about 30,000 people, will also lose some of its bus routes. The number 4 bus to Central and the number 40 bus to Wan Chai will be gone, leaving behind only the number 4X bus to Central. That means going to Pak Fu Lam or Sai Ying Pun will take a bit of a detour in future. This passenger doesn't want to pay extra to switch buses. Others find switching from line to line in the MTR just too much trouble. According to documents submitted to district councils by the government, the Transport Department has proposed to the bus companies to scrap about 20 bus routes and reduce the frequency for about 20 others. And those that are not cancelled now may have to go in the future. The Transport Department says it will all depend on changes in the passenger load once the new railway lines start running. Too few passengers and the route may be scrapped. South District Councillor Henry Chai accuses the government of forcing people to take the MTR without providing any concession for travellers who need to make their connections by bus or minibus. The District Council will discuss the issue later this month. Vicky Kung, TVB News.
Now, if you haven't booked your summer holiday just yet, here's an idea for you. How about a vacation in a place far, far away? But as Joel Da Silva explains, you'll need a lot of money.
How about strapping yourself on board this aircraft and heading about 100 kilometers above the Earth? You can fly through the boundary which separates Earth and space for 5 to 6 minutes. The entire trip takes about an hour under the escort of your personal pilot. You must be at least 18 years old, no taller than 2.12 meters in height, and no heavier than 125 kilos. A healthy heart is also a must, but most of all, a deep wallet. The journey will set you back about 780,000 Hong Kong dollars. The first trip takes off from the United States in 2015. But if you can't wait, then there are special slots next year, which are going for a cool $1.68 million. Alex Tang, CEO of SXC Asia, says the air or spacecraft is based on traditional rocket technology, and they've completed more than 60 successful test flights already. They are now trying to break into the Asia market by opening up shop here in Hong Kong, where they hope to attract some adventurous and wealthy customers. Joel Da Silva, TVB News.
All right, Tony, exciting news coming out of Wimbledon.
That's right. It was pandemonium in England yesterday. My brother was watching it live and he said the atmosphere was just terrific. Andy Murray ended 77 years of frustration for British tennis fans by winning Wimbledon. Murray beat world number 1 Novak Djokovic in straight sets for his second Grand Slam title. And Jameson Wong has all the highlights.
Murray was the sharper of the two in the early going, getting the break of serve here and taking the first set 6-4. Djokovic had his chances to level in the second, only for Murray to come back 7-5 and go up 2 sets to love. The world number one was coming off a grueling 5-set semifinal, but battled to the end, saving 3 match points with Murray serving for the title. The Scot held his nerve to make history. The set score 6-4, 7-5, and 6-4. Not quite sure what this picture says, but not even those two could steal the moment from Andy Murray.
I worked so hard in that last game. It was the hardest few points I've had to play in my life. And yeah, it was a different match to the US Open, and yeah, winning Wimbledon is, yeah, I still can't believe it. Can't get my head around that. I can't believe it.
He was getting some incredible shots on the stretch, and running down the point, running down the drop shots, and he was all over the court, and he played fantastic tennis, no question about it. He deserved to win.
Despite the loss, Djokovic stays at number one. However, Murray made it 2 of 3 in Grand Slam finals over the Serb. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
In motor racing, Formula One world champion Sebastian Vettel won his home race for the first time. The German held off Finland's Kimi Räikkönen to take the checkered flag at Nürburgring. Räikkönen's teammate Roman Grosjean completed the podium. Pole sitter Lewis Hamilton finished 5th. Vettel extended his lead in the Drivers' Championship to 34 points over Spain's Fernando Alonso. Meanwhile, Britain's Chris Froome wears the yellow jersey ahead of stage 10 of the Tour de France. Yesterday's stage in the Pyrenees was won by Ireland's Dan Martin. Froome and his main rivals finished 20 seconds behind the winner. The Team Sky rider has an 85-second lead over Spain's Alejandro Valverde. Monday is a rest day, but tomorrow features a 195-kilometer trip to Saint-Malo.
The world's biggest solar-powered aircraft touched down yesterday at New York's John F. Kennedy Airport. It completed a journey across the United States that began over 2 months ago. Solar Impulse took off on May 1st from the San Francisco Bay Area. Without using a single drop of fuel, the Swiss-made aircraft flew for 105 hours across a total of 5,600 kilometers, including stopovers in Arizona, Texas, and Missouri. The plane's wings and stabilizers are covered with 12,000 solar cells, each helping to drive its 4 propellers and charge its lithium-ion batteries that allow it to fly at night. Solar Impulse is the first solar-powered plane capable of operating day and night to fly across the United States. And that is our news. Thanks so much for watching.
Good night.
Good evening. Locally, it started off mainly cloudy with a few showers this morning. With sunny periods during the day, it was hot in the afternoon. And as tonight's situation chart shows, a southerly airstream is bringing showers to the coast of Guangdong. Today's temperatures ranged from 26.3 to 32 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 64 to 91%, moderate southerly winds. The current temperature is now 29.3 degrees Celsius, with the relative humidity standing at 72%. 0.3 millimeters of rainfall has been recorded since midnight. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? It will be mainly cloudy with a few showers tonight. The minimum temperature will be about 27 degrees overnight. It will be hot with sunny periods tomorrow. The maximum temperature will be about 32 degrees in the urban areas and a couple of degrees higher in the New Territories. There will be sunny intervals and a few showers on Wednesday. It will be very hot in the latter part of the week. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 10 to 60, and the pollution level will range from low to high. And the maximum UV intensity forecast for tomorrow will be about 11. And here's the latest global weather update. Cloudy in Shanghai, Taipei, and Xiamen. Cloudy in Guangzhou, showers in Macau, rain in Chengdu. Thunderstorms in Beijing, rain in Seoul, bright in Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Bright in Kuala Lumpur, thunderstorms in Singapore, cloudy in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, showers in Karachi, rain in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo. Showers in Brisbane and Sydney, sunny in Melbourne, showers in Auckland. Showers in Toronto. Sunny in Vancouver, bright in San Francisco, sunny in Los Angeles. Sunny in London, Paris and Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a lovely evening.